I don't think we want to see people doing more and more POCs. I think I'd rather be working with some of our service providers to try to get out of the POC mentality and get into the let's do a demo. I do think where everybody wants to get to, the pinnacle, is going to be not just investment in co-marketing and in training. It's going to be an investment in co-development. Databricks is going to continue to invest in its platform and its technology, but there's always going to be areas on the fringe where we would absolutely love for another partner, another service provider that can come in and try to build a solution around that.
You touch upon the sports industry. What are the 2-3 key skill sets or the learnings that you want to imbibe from the sports industry into the partnership ecosystem?
You want to think about champions in the sports world, right? There's no days off, and I think that is critically important to an organization like Databricks that's kind of still in this hyper growth mode. That absolutely is part of our mentality, and the idea that practice doesn't make perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. Innovation is going to continue to outpace anything we've seen before. So I think the need for service providers to continue to evolve and keep up with that pace is going to be critically important. Their customers, our customers, they're not going to be able to do that. So they're absolutely going to be dependent upon organizations, the service providers that are in the market to be able to continue to provide those services.
So welcome to another episode of the Zinnov podcast series. I'm Rajat Kohli, working in the capacity of partner with Zinnov, and I take care of the relationship working with the hyperscalers as well as the large and the mid-sized ISVs. Here today we have Jason McIntyre, Vice President for the Scale Partnerships at Databricks, and looking forward to have a very interesting conversation with him that how the evolution of the partner ecosystem looks like. Great to have you, Jason, today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. This is great. So let's deep dive into the discussion. As you're taking care of the SI ecosystem, and I would say that you would agree with me, there's a lot of evolution and the acceleration in the SI persona, the system integrator persona, that how the capability as well as the capacity of the system integrator has evolved over the last few years. You want to throw some light on that, what you have seen in your world?
Yeah, I think maybe what you're referring to is really the idea of system integrators evolving into more than just service providers, but also solution providers. The way in which they're bringing their own thought leadership, maybe some intellectual property, maybe converting some of, as a former recovering consultant, I guess is what some people say, former consultant, recovering consultant. We used to call it methodology. But I think we're seeing a lot of those service providers today really transferring that methodology into intellectual property, more tooling, more assets, and really trying to find ways to go to market with a solution that is addressing a true business need and delivering business value. So I think that's maybe what you're hinting at there, and I would agree. We see all of our partners and all of the friends that we have in the services business today, they're all trying to evolve to something at a higher order like that.
Interesting. And if you see today's world, the data and AI is the talk, and we see that in that world, there's a lot of capability and the maturity needed from the consulting and the system integrators. As for you, what are the critical ingredients in today's world, if you look at the data and AI lens, to make it a success for the partnership between the ISV as well as the partner ecosystem?
Yeah, I think for me, the number one thing I always go back to when it comes to partnership success is having a partnership mentality. I think we have a lot of folks that come to the partnership conversation who have a point of view that they'd like to see, this partnership or their partnerships work at a much more strategic level, and they like to throw around buzzwords around ways in which executive sponsors and business sponsors are going to line up and we're going to invest and we're going to do things at a more strategic level. And for me, what I think is actually a more appropriate way to start these conversations, or really the better approach to the effort, is to ensure that you always maintain a partner mentality, and it's to make sure that as an organization or as an individual, you're committed to the idea that look, every day when I wake up, I'm going to see if I can do more for my partner than my partner is going to do for me today. I'm going to give more than I can get, and I'm going to trust that I've made the right decisions to invest in the right partnerships. That I'm going to get a return on that. For me, I think that's one of the ways in which I like to see, our best partners, our most mature partners, really try to work through some of that. Second thing I always like to try to point out to partners is to differentiate themselves. So we're blessed from a Databricks standpoint. We've got a very large ecosystem today, and so I can speak to where we are today. With over 5,000 partners, I think it's really important for our partners to find a way to differentiate themselves. And so with that, I think you need to, again, I talked about kind of investing in some of the resources or the assets that they create. I think it's important for our partners to own that part of the process and to really think about how they're going to differentiate themselves and not just be another Me Too partner that's providing maybe migration services or modernization services generically, but how are you differentiating yourself and being relevant in a specific industry and providing something that is connected to a business user. And I guess lastly, I always like to talk about best practices. I do think that as much as you want to be different, there are certain things that you really do need to do as part of to be a valued member of a partner ecosystem. You may have the luxury working with some smaller new partners, new technology providers, where you can maybe step in and create something unique, really early days. But I think what you're going to find working with many technology providers or ISVs that are maybe more mature in their ecosystems, is that you really do need to figure out how to play that game, right? And whatever the way in which that partner program has been set up, you kind of need to own your journey through it and make sure that you're following some of the best practices that they've lined up, whether that's around getting training and certifications, whether that's creating solutions and going to market with those solutions, whether it's the way in which you engage in the field and really get recognized for the impact you're having. So I would highlight those three things as kind of ways in which I see some of our best partners engaging today in a more mature way.
Interesting. So Jason, I think so. You touch upon that as of today, there are more than 5,000 partners in the Databricks ecosystem.
Correct.
And every day, more and more partners are onboarded. What differentiated value you see in the next set of the partners, which could be the small or the regional? What do you see in those partner personas?
Yeah, I think what we're going to see in the next set of partners that come into our ecosystem and the way they're going to differentiate themselves, it's going to be based on their expertise, and it's probably most likely in a specific industry. Right? Those are probably the partners that are not in our ecosystem today. Right? Today, we've got a lot of the largest global system integrators are part of our ecosystem. We've got all of the pure play data and analytics service providers in our ecosystem. We've even got a really strong stable of Databricks only partners in our ecosystem today. But I think where we're missing out is probably in some of those partners that are more niche into specific industries. And I think as we become more relevant to the business users inside of industries, I think we're going to find those are the type of service providers that are going to start coming into our ecosystem. So that's where I'm interested. I'm excited about the opportunity to work with more partners of that type of profile.
Understood. And you touched upon the industry. The verticalization is going to be one of the key aspects in the future. And how strong the partners are in a specific industries, how much the value that brings on the table?
99% of it. I think that, a lot of it, right? I'm sure there's the relationship, there's the capability, there's the experience. But no doubt, like I said, as we find ourselves as a technology product, trying to evolve out of the conversations with CIOs and CTOs, and chief data officers, but as we find ourselves working with chief business officers or other leaders of business, we need to be talking about industry. So I think it's absolutely imperative for us to be working through the industry side of things going forward.
Sure. And to enable the partners, there's a lot of investments being done on the training and the certification. You touch upon that, the partner enablement itself, and in some words, you call it co-market, co-build, as well as the co-selling initiatives. How do you see, or what could be the next version of this investments will look like? Is that over the next few years we see the investments in the training and the certification will suffice the requirements, or we need to look at any new element that will enable and accelerate the partner's journey?
Um, that's a very good question. I do think where everybody wants to get to, the pinnacle, is going to be not just investment in co-marketing and investment in training. It's going to be two things. It's going to be an investment in co-development. Databricks is going to continue to invest in its platform and its technology, but there's always going to be areas on the fringe where we're going to maybe have that on our roadmap, but maybe it's on page 2 of the roadmap, or maybe it never makes it on the roadmap. But we would absolutely love for another partner, another service provider that can come in and try to build a solution around that. We'd love to see that. And I think the other thing is just be a higher evolution from a go-to-market standpoint, right? There's some more opportunistic ways in which partners can work together to kind of create opportunities in the market. And then there's more proactive ways that we can do that. And I definitely think that that's what I'd like to see, is a higher evolution from a go-to-market standpoint with our partners.
Sure. And I see that in the industry, there's a shift happening from the large enterprises to the mid-market. And along with the shift, from our investments in the technology, we see that. And also along with the shift, we see, and it's a voice in the ecosystem, that the shift is also happening from a GSI to the next set of the system integrators. How do you see that shift happening?
Maybe I don't have as much visibility into this one, but I think what I've picked up in the marketplace, and what I see is that many of the largest GSIs out there have found that business more commoditized. It's not as big of a growth opportunity for them, and so they're struggling to kind of maintain that as a core part of their business, while many other more niche providers are able to come in, maybe not selling the multi-billion, multi-year type of a deal, but actually picking off pieces of it where they can do it better. But that's all purely anecdotal. Some of the things that I've heard kind of in deal by deal, but I don't know that I've got a good insight into a market trend on that one.
That's fine. And the other aspect that we are looking at is that the trend on the POC to the production, the proof of concepts to the production. And we see that the success rate is on a lower side, but definitely the investments are being done on the right side. What do you think could change so that the success rate is on a higher side?
I think one area could be right away is to think about making the right investments up front. I think a lot of people are trying to do the POC on the cheap, and they're trying to figure out a way to, do these things without the education and without the right resources, without access to the right data. And so if you want to see some of these POCs move into production faster, I think you got to be a little more committed to wanting to see those POCs be successful. If you go into the POC kind of, almost wishing it to fail, or wanting to see if it can overcome some of these higher hurdles, then you're going to be challenged with that. So I think for me, I'd like to see people invest more in their POCs to do that. Maybe I've said it differently though too. I don't think we want to see people doing more and more POCs. I think I'd rather be working with some of our service providers to try to get out of the POC mentality and get into the let's do a demo. Let's show you how your data, that work stream, can be done today. And so getting out of kind of a POC mode altogether and just getting into a faster time to production.
Interesting. Based on our analysis, we have seen the trend that the line of businesses are becoming the new CIOs.
Correct.
And,
we see that.
And in this journey, it's very important that the partner ecosystem is ready to have those kind of conversations with the line of businesses outside of the CIOs.
Yes.
Are the partners of today's world are ready to have those conversations, or they need support on the sales playbook, on the industry playbook, aligned to the use case?
Yeah. Great question. My first reaction was going to be, yes, they are. That's who they are. They're ready to have those conversations more than the technology providers like a Databricks are able to have those conversations. But as you finish that question, you're right. There's a lot that the technology providers like a Databricks can do to continue to ensure that the right enablement is in place. I do think that that's a challenge, especially in a place, in a market that's so innovative and moving so fast today. It is really challenging not only to educate your customers and your own organization, and we're working hard to make sure that we think about the partners inside of that as well, right? That we don't line that up and make that sequential. How do we do that all in one motion? Let's make sure that our field, our customers, and our partners are all being educated and getting access to our innovation as quickly as possible.
So in today's world, Jason, there's a lot of focus on the data and AI, and everyone is looking for the return on the investments, that how the customers can benefit in terms of every money they're investing into the technology. And at the same time, the platform providers like the Databricks are looking for the return on the investments in the partner initiatives also.
Okay.
Now, how do you see that, and what is the way forward for this?
Sure. I think there's two questions in there.
Yes.
One, it's on the customer side, and then it's also on the kind of the partner side. So from a customer standpoint, we've invested in a team that really helps our customers understand the return on investment that they're getting from a Databricks standpoint. And that's becoming critically important as we become more important to, or a bigger line item in the budget of our customers. It's critically important for them to understand as a buyer and then as sponsors of those of our relationship, to understand what's the cost benefit that they're getting or cost savings that they're getting from working with Databricks, understanding what any kind of new business value is that they're getting from Databricks, but then also understanding what's the productivity that they're gaining. And that's what we find really important when working with Databricks today. It is the idea of allowing data engineers and data science and your data scientists and your data analysts to be able to do their job and do it faster and do it better. So all these things coming together, that's where we think the return on investment is coming from, or how we try to articulate it. And it's always fun to kind of tell some of our customer stories, and many of them are publicly available. We're talking millions of dollars of when you combine the savings with the new business value, and even some of the ways in which teams are quantifying the productivity that they're gaining. Now, when I think about the return on investment from a partner program standpoint, that's an age-old question that's a little harder from a partner standpoint. It's an indirect return oftentimes that you're getting, right? Because ultimately what you're getting from investing in the partner, in a partner ecosystem or in a specific partner, is you're getting better collaboration in the field, and you're getting better return from your customers, right? Or you're getting more adoption in the marketplace. So one of the things that we really try to do is make sure that our partners are engaging our field, and that our field is the one, whether they're sales, whether they're account executives that are our sellers, or whether they're our field solution architects, we want to make sure that they're recognizing the impact of our partners. So the best way we have to really recognize that return on investment in our partner ecosystem is when our field teams, our sellers, are telling us about the impact that partners are having on their ability to serve their customers. So for us, that's the most important thing we can look to do. For Databricks, an organization that has their sights set on being a much larger organization, our growth is absolutely dependent upon the ability of our service providers, the partners that are in our ecosystem, to be able to engage on almost all of the implementations. We have some of our best, largest customers, brightest customers. They like to self-implement. That's great. But we recognize that most large enterprises are looking for their trusted advisors to help them with these things.
Interesting. I think so. The other aspect is, Jason, what we're hearing from the partners as well as the platform companies is the clear understanding between the partner influence revenue and the partner source revenue. That in a particular deal, how involved is a partner, and then how we can categorize it, either of these two. Is the industry able to solve that, or still it's a question mark, and what needs to be done going forward?
Yeah, I think that's a question that will continue to persist in the market. I think it's very dependent upon the maturity of the service provider and their partner program, the maturity of the ISV or the technology provider and their their partner program. It has a lot to do with the leadership that's in place and how they think about or accept, recognize the role of an ecosystem in their ability to do things. For me personally, I've been in the field long enough to see things come and go, very much in a cyclical manner as far as how things are thought about in these ways. For me, I've always tried to stay as much above that as I can and recognize that, again, for me, having a partner mentality, as long as I can help our SI partners grow their business, if they've got a healthy pipeline and if they're working on a healthy amount of work today from a delivery standpoint, I can trust that, and I'm getting them to follow best practices and they're engaging with us in the field. I can trust that the scoreboard will take care of itself, as they say in the sports world, right? So we're going to keep doing all the right things as a partner team, and we're going to let some of the scoreboard matters work themselves out.
Interesting. You touched on the sports industry. What are the 2-3 key skill sets or the learnings that you want to imbibe from the sports industry into the partnership ecosystem?
Well, one thing has got to be compete, right? You got to compete to win, right? You got to wake up every day thinking that you can win. Don't ever concede a meeting, a call, an email, right? You need to be always selling, always trying to position, your capabilities, the opportunity that your organization or this partnership represents. So I think that's number one. You want to think about champions in the sports world, right? There's no days off, and I think that is critically important to an organization like Databricks that's kind of still in this hyper growth mode. That absolutely is part of our mentality, day in, day out. So I think that goes along with it. The other one I always like to think about is the importance of practice, right? And the idea that practice doesn't make perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. And so I definitely like to think about being prepared for anything that I do or that my team is part of. Is making sure that we work with each other to practice what we're doing, to be ready to meet the expectations of our partners, right? And make sure that we're there to help them in their journey.
Interesting. You touched upon the practice, and I can relate that. There's another important aspect is the skill set of the individual team members working in the partner community. How it has evolved with the evolution of these emerging technologies and the maturity of the technology. And do you see that going forward is going to change further from what skill sets is needed in the partner community, like the system integrator and the consulting partners, aligned to your product portfolio?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in this space, innovation is going to continue to outpace anything we've seen before. So I think the need for service providers to continue to evolve and keep up with that pace is going to be critically important. Their customers, our customers, they're not going to be able to do that. So they're absolutely going to be dependent upon organizations, the service providers that are in the market to be able to continue to provide those services. I do think given where we are today and the topics we're talking about, you can't not think about how generative AI and agentic systems, or whatever the next buzzword will be, and along that field, how that's going to impact the way service providers really kind of build their business and staff their business. I think one of the things that's interesting is that a lot of people in the services organization, they earned their way up that ladder by doing many of the small things that needed to be done right. They needed to learn how to listen to requirements. They needed to be able to learn how to project manage and program manage the efforts that were underway. And I just think it'll be really interesting to see how agentic systems disrupts that those roles that are kind of entry level roles inside of the consulting organization. How agentic systems really disrupts that life cycle and that pipeline of skills and talent and leadership that comes into services organizations. So that's how I think about maybe the evolution of that.
That's interesting. And I'll put the last question. You spoke about how the evolution at the partner community we see. But looking at your side, the partner leaders like you, what is the playbook for the partner leaders going forward as we see the maturity on the workload, maturity on the technology, maturity on the industry? What is the playbook for the partner leaders like you should be?
Yeah, I hope we get to focus more on inspiration and education. I think, especially when you're at an organization that's growing as fast as Databricks, and I know every organization is growing fast, there's definitely a tendency to want to lean in and not just be a leader or a coach, but to be a player, to get on the field, get your jersey dirty a little too. And, as we do that, we kind of have a more of a lead by example type of an approach, versus really being able to come in and help our team with more inspiration and more education and more vision, that one helps them as individuals kind of get inspired, but also helping our partners and our customers see that same inspiration. So like for me, that's what I think is becoming more and more compelling for at least a leader like me. But I think about those folks that are my leaders, and I think it really is about making sure that our executive leadership sees the opportunity to continue to invest in partners in new ways. Like we talk about, we had a long conversation here about innovation. That innovation is not limited to just the technology. It's also limited to the ways in which partnerships can be built and the way they can evolve. And that requires investment at certain times. And whether that's in people that have new skills that maybe aren't on the team today, or whether it's in programs that require more funding. And those programs need to differentiate themselves from some of the things that, as a technology provider, your competitors are doing in the market.
This is interesting. Jason, let's do a quick rapid fire with you. How
Right.
AI has transformed you as an individual?
I don't feel like it's transformed me yet, other than in the maybe the vision that I'm going to have for the future and how the future is shaped. I don't feel like it's had an impact on me yet today, but it's impacting the way in which I think about the future.
Interesting. As you're like a sports lover, what if AI is running the entire show on the different matches? Would you love it?
No, that's not what sports is to me, right? Sports is about seeing, oftentimes people like you, who've either in some ways they've been blessed with a little more talent, but I know the truth is they've worked harder. And it's fun to watch people compete and do things in that way. But no, I would not want to see any sporting match be determined based on the probable statistics of who should win or who could win.
Got it. The Gen AI has disrupted the industry. What could be the next technology that you can think of?
I think it'll be just kind of the continued evolution, because you just used the word generative AI, and already generative AI is not what people talk about. They talk about agentic systems. Before that, it was just AI. Before that, it was data science. So I just think it's going to be a continued evolution of that, that thread. I'm not capable of dreaming big enough to think about what else could, flying cars and some of that kind of stuff. I'll let that happen and I'll observe it. I'm not going to dream it.
And what is your advice to the graduates, the new college graduates that are coming in to the ecosystem? What is your advice to them?
Yeah. Look, be prepared to work hard. I think kind of one of the things I said earlier in our discussion, I think you got to figure out what differentiate yourself. And you need to figure that out. You need to pursue what you want to do and what you want to do differently. I think if you let enterprises or the world shape what you are, you will get, they will accept that and they will use you, but you will not find yourself in a sustainable career. You need to, I think, challenge yourself to always be doing new things and be pursuing those new things.
Awesome. This is great. This is a fascinating discussion. Jason, thank you so much for your time today. I'm sure you're leaving with a defined playbook for the partner community. What should they do to accelerate their journey and go after the market opportunity? And definitely also for the platform companies like you, what should be their partner playbook? So thank you so much for your time. And to audience, thank you so much for your valuable time to listening to this conversation. I'm sure you all are taking away with some interesting learnings based on Jason's conversation. Thank you, and we'll come back again.
Thank you, Rajat. It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Zinnov Podcast. Stay tuned for more such interesting episodes. You can listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or any of your favorite streaming platforms.